Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. It has been a hectic few days here at Always Bored, Never Boring HQ. I've recently received a pre-production copy of the card and dice game Fatty Sack, which I'm currently looking at. I have received a huge stack of review copies of games from Jumbo Games, which I need to play through and review on my blog. At the weekend, I DM'd a Dungeons & Dragons session, which went on for quite a long time, and in preparation for that Dungeons & Dragons session, I was speed painting some various different things, so it has been a little bit hectic, and I'm afraid I haven't had a chance to put together anything half decent for Monday's episode. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a lazy filler of an episode. I thought what I would do is, being as I had just speed painted a bunch of goblins for my Dungeons & Dragons campaign. These are actually Hobbit goblins, Games Workshop goblins from the Hobbit starter set for their Lord of the Rings war game. Because I had just speed painted a bunch of these for my Dungeons & Dragons campaign, I thought I would very quickly just talk about how I did it. Normally, for my 10 paints or less series, I would obviously have it all edited together and show you as the techniques as I paint them. But yeah, like I say, needs must. I wanted some content to put up for today because I'm still trying to do content regularly Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I haven't missed a slot this year so far, and I didn't want today to be that day. So what we have here is our hastily painted goblin. And what I did was I started with a black undercoat. It's usually a good idea, especially when you're painting sort of darker color palettes, things like that, and where I want to make use of shade and things like that. So it was a black undercoat. And then the most obvious choice was Rakarth Flesh. And I slightly watered the paint down, and I did 2 thin coats. Duncan would be proud of me. So I did 2 thin coats to get a good solid Rakarth Flesh base colour on there. Obviously, predominantly these miniatures are just flesh, so if you get the flesh right, everything else is just gravy. So that was what I was focusing on mainly. So with the 2 coats of Rakarth Flesh on, I had to do a wash. I went for red tone to give a sort of a pinkish look to the miniature. I did toy with the idea of doing Agrax Earthshade instead, but yeah, went with red tone. Which I guess there's a crimson wash that Games Workshop do, Carroburg Crimson I think it's called, which I guess is the approximation for Army Painter red tone. But I had red tone in the cupboard, so that's what I used. With that done, I then went back to Rakarth Flesh again, and I thinned it down with Lahmian Medium. I did a 50-50 mix of Lahmian Medium and Rakarth Flesh, and layered on some paint, obviously leaving the recesses, the very deep parts of the miniature, just layering it on. And I did two coats there, just to make sure it was good coverage. And then for the next layer, I did Rakarth Flesh again, but I did an Ulthuan Grey mix into it. So I actually did 1 part Ulthuan Grey, 1 part Rakarth Flesh, and 1 part Lahmian Medium, and layered that on again. So you start getting a raised highlight look. And that finished the skin, basically, apart from going back to my red tone ink and blotching red tone onto the boils. So just a very small amount, just dabbed on, just to make the boils pinkish, and also to have it sort of redefine the edges of where those boils are. You can see on the back as well there. Because these goblins are gross, by the way. I really don't like these goblins. They're nasty looking. I like them, but I don't like them, if you know what I mean. I'm a big fan of goblins, but I like sort of the more kooky, crazy, hook-nosed ones. Games Workshop goblins are good. A lot of different companies make good goblin miniatures, and I even like the goblins from Moria goblins from the original trilogy, Lord of the Rings trilogy. But yeah, the Hobbit goblins are just a bit too gross for me, but they look all right painted up. So anyway, that was the layering done for that. The next thing to do was the hair. For the hair, there's very little hair on these guys, but I did ash grey. So I just did a base coat of ash grey on them. Agrax Earthshade over the top, and then a re-highlight with ash grey again, just to redefine some of the strands on the top. And that was that done. That was the hair done. And then it's the loincloth and the wooden weapons and stuff. And as I was going for quick, I basically did all of the brown elements the same. So, oh, and you can tell that I speed painted these because I actually missed a band that I've got to go back and paint afterwards. You can see that I missed a band that hasn't been painted in the same way as all the other brown. But the general concept for the brown was everything got a coat of leather brown. I'm not entirely sure what the closest approximation would be in Citadel paints, but yeah, leather brown, and then good old Agrax Earthshade again, and then monster brown for the highlights. Again, just highlighting over the, if I can bring that right up close without going out of focus. So yeah, just a highlight over the most raised surfaces of the brown. That was that. And then there was the metal elements of the weapons, and all of the weapons. I mean, you could, some of these are perhaps supposed to be bones and things like that rather than picks or whatever, but I wanted to do everything quick and easy, minimizing my color palette. So good old Leadbelcher, base coat of Leadbelcher over everything that was metallic, and then back to Agrax Earthshade once again, just to dingy it up a bit. I could have gone with Null and Oil, but yeah, didn't want to. Again, I had Agrax Earthshade, that's what I used. At this point, the only thing you've got left to deal with are the eyes. The good thing about the eyes on these goblins is they're quite bulbous and they're all wacky and they're all going off in funny directions and stuff. So even if you don't get your pupils exactly where you want them to go, it's not the end of the world, because they kind of look wacky and weird anyway. Because like you can see this guy, he's got one eye that's staring straight ahead. He's got one eye that's sort of staring off that way, but that's just where I put the pupil slightly wrong. But yeah, for the eyes, it is literally Ulthuan Grey again. Didn't want to go with white, just because sometimes going white on an eye can make it look a little bit too stark and starey. Going with Ulthuan Grey just makes it a little bit more toned down, so it doesn't pop out of the face too much. So yeah, little dab of Ulthuan Grey, and then with the Abaddon Black, just dotting the pupil. And that's it. I could have picked out the teeth with Ulthuan Grey, but I didn't bother. I was in a big hurry. All I did was I just put a splash of Agrax Earthshade into the negative space around the teeth. And then, finally, the base. Textured Astrogranite paint, which I have been using a lot recently. I'm using it a lot because I'd never used it until I got a pot of it with the Warhammer 40,000 Conquest magazine subscription. And I'm using it on all of my Dungeons and Dragons stuff. It's just a nice, quick, easy way. And anything that I'm painting sort of in a lazy fashion. Anyone who's watched my previous videos will know that for hero characters and stuff like that, I will sometimes do like a scenic base, or go to town and make something look a little bit more special. But when I'm doing things quickly, and particularly for Dungeons and Dragons, I'm just slopping the Astrogranite on. When it has dried, it's just a dry brush of Ulthuan Grey again, and you'll see that I'm going back time and time again to the same few paints. There are certain paints that just get used for everything for me. Ulthuan Grey is a great paint. I use it a lot for a lot of different things. And then when that dry brush is dry, it's just Abaddon Black around the base. And there we go. That is a finished goblin, apart from that small thing that I've missed off and we'll go back and paint shortly. But anyway, there you go. That is a very lazy video showing you a very lazy way to paint some goblins. I hope someone's found this interesting, and hopefully I will have something more exciting to show you on Wednesday's video. Thank you very much for watching. Comments, queries, please leave them down below. I always do my best to respond if I can. People who have commented said they want to see some more aliens painting. There is some more aliens painting coming. That will be coming in the near future. But yeah, anything else you want to see or know, comments down below. Thank you very much, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.